Good morning, Rabbi.
We're learning Mishna Yevamos, Parakid Beis, chapter 12, Mishnah Vav, Mishnah 6. Okay. Mitzvahs Chalitza. The mitzvah of Chalitza is performed in the following way. Bahu v'yavimta lebeis din. He, referring to the brother of the deceased brother, and his Yevama, his brother's wife, who is now bound to him for Yibam. So he is the Yavim, she's the Yevama. They come to the base and they come to the rabbinical court. And they give him the advice appropriate to him. What kind of advice have to give to him? Basically, they have to give him advice. What makes more sense here? Yibam or Chalitza? Clearly, Yibam, we know, is the first step. You should be doing Yibam. Yibam, that's the mitzvah. That's what you should be doing. If you decide not to do Yibam, then you do Chalitza. But what is happening here is that when they first come to the basin, to the rabbinical court, first come to the court, they the judges really kind of size the situation to see, does it make sense for the Yibam to take place? Should they marry? And the Bartanur explains that basically, if there's a big disparity in age, if one is much older than the other, not a good idea. So therefore, if that's what actually the situation is, that one of them is significantly older than the other one, then they tell them this is not a good idea. This is not a good idea for a marriage, and therefore, in that situation, better do chalitza. So, but if it makes sense to do yibam, then they would advise him to do yibam. They can't force him to do yibam. If he still says I don't want to do yibam, they can't force him, and he'll do chalitza. But the point of the Mishnah is that when he first comes to Beis Din, the Beis Din gives him advice, advises him what's the appropriate way to go. Should they actually do Yibam? Should a marriage take place? Or should he give her Chalitza and free her? Shenemar, and this is based on the words of the Pasuk. The elders of the city shall call him and speak to him. Speak to him means that it's not just calling him for doing Yibam or Chalitza, it's not just calling him right to decide what to do, Yibam or Chalitza, but actually to discuss with him which one makes more sense. All right. Now, the rest of the story is that he says, I'm not doing Yibam. I'm not doing Yibam, I'm doing Chalitza. So what happens next? V'hi Aimeres. She then actually says, Me'ein Yevami la'akim la'achiv v'shem b'Yisrael le'avayabmi. She now recites these words. These words are the words of the Torah. The Torah actually says what is the wording, the exact wording she's supposed to say. She's supposed to say, Me'ein Yevami, my Yavim refuses la'akim la'achiv v'shem b'Yisrael to establish a name for his brother in Israel. La'yabmi, he is not willing to take me in Yibam. Okay, that is what she says. And actually, this is what the Bezdin is, reciting her to say. V'hu Aimer, the Yavim then says, Lo chafatzti lekachta, I do not want to marry her. This is exactly the words that the Torah says to say, that the Torah describes, and these are the exact words that are said. Uvelashayin ha'kaidesh hayu oimrim, and they were said in the holy tongue. Meaning they were said exactly like the words of the Torah. If you did not say, they must be said. This is derived from the words from a source that we say that they have to be recited exactly as they are mentioned in the Torah, and in the exact same wording. Where do I have this? Hold on one second. Yeah. Okay, they have to say the exact words of the Torah. All right, now, V'niksha Yavimto Elav L'Einei Azakanim, his Yavama, meaning his sister-in-law, then approaches him in front of the elders, meaning the members of the Beis Din, of the court. V'chol Tzanaloi, she removes his shoe, Me'al Ragloi, from his foot. The Yarka B'fandav, and she spits in front of him. Roik Hanir L'Dayanim, she has to spit enough for the judges to be able to see the spittle. Like a little whatever. If they can't see it, it's not good. That's not the way to do it. It has to be done in a way that they can see the spittle. Va'ansa va'amra. And then she declares and she says, Kacha yaseh lo ish, so shall be done to a man, ashal yivnes beis achiv, who does not want to build the house of his brother. Ad kan hayu makrin. It is up to this point in the passages of the Torah that deal with the situation of Yibam that they would now recite to her, that they would make her say. Right? This is where it ended. It ended with her saying, "Kacha yaseh lo ish asher yivne es beis achiv." So shall be done to a man that will not build the house of his brother. And again, that's what the Torah says she should say. And this is where it ended. This is where they ended reciting to her to repeat. Now, there was a sage of Hyrcanus that he dictated the verses of Chalitza, Tachas Ha'ela. They translate that under the elm tree, Bekfar Etam, in the village of Etam. And when he did it, V'hig v'gamar eskal haparsha, he ended the whole portion. Meaning, after these words that it says, after those words in the Torah, where it says that she says, so shall be done to a person who does not want to establish a house for his brother, the next words of the Torah are, V'nikra shmoi b'Yisrael beis chalutz hanal, and his name shall be called in Israel the house of the one whose shoe was removed. Now, according to the first part of the Mishnah said this was not recited to her to repeat. But Reb Hyrcanus, he did it. When he actually performed the Chalitza, he actually had her say these words also, V'nikra b'Yisrael beis chalutz hanal. He had her saying it also. Until him, they stopped at that point. But when he did it, he had her finish the entire that part of the passage in the Torah also. And once he did it, from that on, it came out that people started doing this to complete the entire section. Meaning, it became established that the custom of all courts doing chalitza would now have her recite. They would recite to her and have her repeat, including these last words of that portion of the Torah. Okay? Now, mitzvah b'dayanim v'lo mitzvah b'talmidim. There's a mitzvah for the judges to say, and there's not a mitzvah for the students to say. That means that the Torah says, V'nikra shmei b'Yisrael beis chalutz hanal. His name will be called in Israel, the house of the shoe that was removed. What is supposed to happen? What's supposed to happen after that? When it says, and his name will be called beis chalutz hanal, that the judges are supposed to say the words chalutz hanal. They're supposed to say the one whose shoe was removed. That's what they're supposed to say. And it was the obligation for the judges to say. Now, whenever we're talking about judges, especially we're talking about learned judges, they had students there, and the students were present. And by being present, they were learning themselves, how a chalitza is done. But the Mishnah says that it's a mitzvah for the judges to say it, but the students don't have to say it. The judges proclaim the words chalutz hanal, the one whose shoe was removed, and the students don't. Rabbi Yehuda says mitzvah kol ha'omdim sham lo'imar chalutz hanal, chalutz hanal, chalutz hanal. It's a mitzvah for everyone present to say the words chalutz hanal, not only once but 3 times. Now, the purpose of this declaration of chalutz hanal is meant to, it's meant to publicize. Everybody reciting it, but everybody announcing it, it's meant to be a form of announcing and publicizing what was done. So that's the purpose of this whole idea of saying chalutz hanal. Now, according, as they say here on the bottom, although biblically they need only say the one whose shoe was removed 1 time, the rabbis instituted that it be repeated 3 times to publicize the matter. The Torah says, V'nikra shmei, his name will be called. So what do you say? Chalutz hanal, 1 time. The Chachamim later on said that they decided we're going to say it 3 times. By saying it 3 times, that will be a way of publicizing the matter even more. And the Mishnah said that the Mishnah brings down a difference of opinion. According to the first opinion, it's only incumbent upon the court to say those words. According to Rabbi Yehuda, everybody present says those words. Okay. The Chofetz Chaim writes, All right. Until now, we've been speaking already for a while about being able to publicize how one person wronged another person. Says the Chofetz Chaim, don't let that make you think that now you can tell others what someone did to you. You know, I can tell Loeb, I can tell everybody what Reuben did to Shimon, so I can say what Reuben did to me. How he stole from me, how he embarrassed me, how he caused me a lot of suffering. You know you're saying the exact truth, the truth. Even if all the other conditions, you spoke to the guy first, you try to work it out with him first, he didn't want to listen. That's one of the examples. Still, you cannot do this. Because at that point, why are you taking it over to other people? Because it's personal. It's not about a constructive purpose. It's personal. Meaning, we said before, you could have a constructive purpose of, telling other people what the other people did so that, other people should learn not to follow these kinds of actions, this kind of behavior. Maybe he himself, when he hears other people putting him down for it, he'll stop doing it. But that's not going to happen here in this case when you're talking about yourself. The reason you're doing it is because of the fact you're just trying to get back at him for what he did to you. And the more people listen to what he says and accept what he says, the happier he's going to be about the fact he's getting back at this person. And therefore, one has to be very careful about telling other people what someone did to him, because when he does that, typically, I'm going to use the word typically because he discussed later, what if I'm telling other people because I need their help? Right? Mm-hmm. But that's not what's happening over here. Here what's happening is he's saying, I went ahead and said, I learned you can tell what Reuben did to Shimon, you can publicize it if all the conditions are met in order for other people not to learn from his actions, and that's what I'm doing. Nah, but if I'm doing that for what he did to me. Nah, if that's what you're trying to do, what he did for you, typically that's not what's happening. Yeah. You're just trying to get back at him. And therefore, if that is why you're saying it, even if all the other conditions are met, you're not allowed to do it. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Rabbi.